National Teenager Day and the dumbest bill in America. This is Mark Fisher with Mark and the Millennials and the Millennial. Joining me today is, of course, Christopher Hopkins, our producer on the other side of the camera. Welcome, everyone. We are calling this podcast National Teenager Day because today is National Teenager Day, otherwise known by Democrats as Child Mutilation Day. And we're going to talk about that issue at some length in this podcast. And boy, do we have some interesting stuff to talk about when it comes to child mutilation as it relates to transing children in blue states, the latest being the state of Maryland. But first up, good news. We have a DeSantis ad that I really want you to hear. This is the first ad to come out from DeSantis to actually make him, the governor of Florida, look like he's running for president of the United States. Yay! Let's hear it for that. We had that clip. Pretty inspiring. And if we ever needed inspiration in the United States, we need it now. Here is the clip. Here it is.
When the world lost its mind, when common sense suddenly became an uncommon virtue, Florida was a refuge of sanity, a citadel of freedom for our fellow Americans and even for people around the world.
Ron DeSantis has decided to put his people first.
Ron DeSantis taking a lot of heat over it, but he's not backing down.
Florida's success has been made more difficult by the floundering federal establishment in Washington, D.C. An inflationary spending binge that has left our nation weaker and our citizens poorer. It has enacted pandemic restrictions and mandates. It has recklessly facilitated open borders. It has imposed an energy policy that has crippled our nation's domestic production. This has caused many to be pessimistic about the country's future. Some even say that failure is inevitable. Florida is proof positive that we, the people, are not destined for failure.
DeSantis wins. He has made a promise, and he's making good on the promise.
Florida is leading the nation. We are the nation's fastest growing state. We rank number one in education freedom. We are number one in economic freedom. Florida also ranks number one in public higher education. This is a record we can all be proud of.
That's why the left hates Governor DeSantis, because he's a winner. That's what the guy does. He wins.
Decline is a choice. Success is attainable. And freedom is worth fighting for.
That's fantastic. Decline is a choice. Did you hear that? That's the way presidents used to speak. Decline is a choice. If you want to be the declining empire, that is a choice. You can be that if you want. But if you want freedom, then you might want to vote for DeSantis. That is what he is saying in the ad, of course. And I know that there are plenty of Trump supporters out there who listen to our podcast. I understand that. I'm not here just advocating for one candidate or another because, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is ahead in the polls, right? Chris, I mean, he's ahead in the polls significantly. But the fact of the matter is, here is DeSantis tipping his pinky and his toe into the water of potentially running for president of the United States. A very inspiring ad. And that's exactly what the people of the United States want. And then on the other side, we have the misery presented by the Democrat Party, ladies and gentlemen, which is why this podcast is called National Teenager Day, which it is. It's a day to celebrate teenagers and to take care of them and to nurture them. Or Democrats call it Child Mutilation Day, or Groomer Day in their part. And this is no lie, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I serve in the Maryland legislature, and we are currently in session in Maryland. And there is a bill that just passed, House Bill 283, which has Medicaid pay for child mutilation surgery. Child mutilation surgery. Now, why does this matter? Well, you care about National Teenager Day, and you care about teenagers, you should certainly care about this. And this is coming from all the way from the top of the United States. Biden's transsexual assistant secretary of health, suggests America will soon embrace gender-affirming mutilation of children. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the Blaze News, Assistant Secretary for Health, and by the way, this was in many news sources across the country, Assistant Secretary for Health Rachel Levine, Admiral Levine, which is a man dressed up as a woman, told a crowd of pediatric health care providers last month that he is optimistic that genital mutilation and chemical transmogrification of children, euphemistically called gender-affirming care, will soon be fully embraced. By the way, the Democrats call it gender-affirming care because that sounds really easy to understand and it's not very invasive or crazy. What did you call it? Flowery. Yeah, it's very flowery. I like that. Very flowery language, when in fact we know what they're doing. They're actually mutilating children through surgery. The Biden nominee spoke at a pediatric ground rounds session hosted in February, just last month, by Connecticut Children's, an expansive health system catering to kids. Levine, the highest-ranking transsexual official in the U.S. history, discussed gender-affirming care, the long-term impact of COVID-19 pandemic, and mental health problems suffered by American youths. By proactively engaging with social and environmental world that defines our patients' lives, quote, we can help them in terms of preventive care, acute care, chronic care, and other impactful issues that affect our children and their families, said Levine. Levine intimated that the failure by social and environmental world to fully embrace the transsexual agenda has resulted in mentally ill youths attempting suicide. It's totally not true. So he's saying that when you don't fully embrace the transgender agenda for your children, that then and only then do they commit suicide. Folks, most parents want to get mental health services to their children. The difference is, in the Democrat Party, mental health services are services engaged in convincing your child that they are transsexual and then forcing them or coercing them into getting surgery to lob off personal body parts. That is a fact. We just passed that bill in the legislature like last week in Maryland. A Pew Research Center national survey published in June found that 46% of U.S. adults polled favored making it illegal for healthcare professionals to help someone under the age 18 with medical care for gender transition. 72% of Republican or Republican-leaning respondents supported the statement. 58% of all respondents agreed that transsexual athletes should have to compete on sports teams that match their biological sex. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex Americans, especially our youth, are very challenged at this time and are attempting suicide at an alarming rate, claimed the new health secretary under Biden. Quote, gender-affirming care is medical care. Gender-affirming care is mental health care. And literally, gender-affirming care is suicide prevention care. No, folks. Mental health care is mental health care. That's when you talk to the individual and you actually have a conversation about the fact that they are a biological man or a biological woman or a biological boy or a biological girl. But Democrats are trying to push that into, well, let's now affirm what the child, who can't even open up a checking account, thinks that they might be. And ladies and gentlemen, in the state of Maryland, and this is happening in other blue states, do you know that pronouns are taught to children as young as kindergarten in Maryland? So you're taught the pronouns are fluid in kindergarten in Maryland. Namely, your 5-year-old is taught, you could be a they or a there. You could be a he or a she. And then, of course, the, poor little girl says, but I'm a girl, and then the teacher's like, nah, today we're going to do this whole experiment where you're going to be a boy. Yes, but I'm a girl. Well, so is it any wonder why in the state of Maryland and in other blue states across the United States, like California, Illinois, and New York, there is a surge of children who are saying to their teachers, I think I might be in the wrong body. I might be the opposite sex. And then what happens next? Then the teacher in Maryland has the right to not tell the parents. The teacher in Maryland, ladies and gentlemen, has the right to hide from the mother and father that their child actually is getting gender-affirming mental health care in the public school system. So in Maryland, the teacher has the right to withhold it from the parents or to disclose it to the parents. It's up to the teacher what they want to do. It's not up to the parent. The parent may not even know. And then this could go on for months and months and months until such time as one day the parents are looking at their child saying, what in the heck is going on? There's a problem. Usually they would notice it sooner. They call the school, and the school is still trying to hide it from them. And then you get the education lawyers involved. This is the brave new world of Maryland and of the Democrat Party mutilators in the state of Maryland and California and Illinois and everywhere else for that matter. So here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing. We have a Biden administration, Secretary of Health, Assistant Secretary of Health, Admiral Rachel Levine, who's telling everyone this is the norm. And then we have Biden, of course, that has fully endorsed this nominee because he's the one that nominated her to begin with. And then you have states passing these laws that allow a simultaneous education curriculum that teaches this to children. The children then, at a very young age, become confused. Then the Democrats in the legislatures in these blue states pass laws that say you can't tell the parents. The parents don't know. And before you know it, you have this dilemma where children are faced with such confusion. And the Democrats just want to give them gender-affirming care, which means gender-affirming child mutilation surgery. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a fact. So on the House floor of the Maryland House of Delegates, and I'm talking about Maryland a lot here because it's doing exactly what California and Illinois and New York and the other blue states are doing, which is to try to separate parents from their children and to groom children, then to mutilate them. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to some final words that I had on the House floor about House Bill 283. I'm going to play this clip for you. I don't know how long it is, Chris. It's not that long, actually. It's relatively short. It's 2 minutes, but it's worth listening to because so many of my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle, not all of them, okay, but so many of them are terrified of getting up and talking about this. Now, did they vote with me? Yeah, they did. Did they vote against this crazy legislation? Yeah, they voted against this crazy legislation, as did I. But so many of them won't get up and declare war against a party that is literally ruining a generation of children. We have that clip, and here it is.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlemen,
thank you, Madam Speaker. What was just described is already covered under Medicaid. Already is. And we know that this bill is about children because yesterday we offered an amendment and it was rejected. And the amendment was to make these services available to individuals who are 18 years of age and older. That amendment was rejected. This bill is about children. Imagine a state where bills would pass requiring gender identity ideology to be taught in kindergarten. Imagine a state where children in elementary school are taught that pronouns are fluid. They can be a they or a their. Then imagine a state where miraculously there is a significant increase in diagnosed gender dysphoria as a result of the former curriculum that has been implemented and passed by this body. And then imagine a state that passes a bill that allows schools to provide mental health services for individuals that are experiencing gender dysphoria and does so with or without the parental consent. Then imagine House Bill 283, which seeks to engage in what I believe is child mutilation and child mutilation surgeries that cannot be reversed, and we know this. Today, according to the United Nations and the World Health Organization, more than 200 million girls and women alive today have undergone female genital mutilation surgery. It is considered a crime against humanity by the United Nations. And now here we are, creating a brave new world. Wouldn't Aldous Huxley be proud? A dystopia, experimenting on children when the science is not settled. I'm voting no. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was in House Bill 283 in Maryland. And yes, a little bit of self-promotion there. Fact of the matter is, the bill has Medicaid, which is the state program, pay for child mutilation surgery, including mastectomies of children, by the way. Puberty blockers, which obviously tells you that, and it says this in the bill, which means it's targeted to children. Removal of one's vagina. I think it's called a vaginectomy. And then also penectomies, removal of one's penis. This is of children. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know on the House floor of the House of Delegates, the Democrat defending this bill said that, well, if you have your penis removed or your vagina removed, it can be reversed. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. We might want to get that clip for next time. You know, just that short clip. It was just a question. I asked the question on the floor. We don't have it for this episode, but I asked the person defending the bill on the floor of the Maryland House of Delegates. If an individual has a vaginectomy, I mean, they've essentially made it impossible for them to ever have a sex life. And the person defending the bill is like, yeah, it can be reversed. Like, you know, if they have second thoughts at some later date in their life, you know, like when they're 25 years old, don't worry, we can fix it. We all know that's not true. This is the Democrat Party, ladies and gentlemen. These are individuals engaging in crimes against humanity because they want to promote by taxpayer-funded child mutilation surgery. And they want to teach it in public schools so that there's a massive expansion of individuals who need this surgery or who think that they need this surgery because they're so confused. Then they don't want to tell the parents, and then they want the taxpayers to pay for it. And you wonder about the future of our country? You wonder why we're in such trouble? And get this. The puberty blockers that these individuals are supposed to receive, children, the Biden administration is ignoring its own warning on puberty blockers. The Department of Health and Human Services, and this just came out today, is ignoring its own sub-agency's warning on puberty blockers, according to a letter written by HHS Secretary Javier Becerra. The Food and Drug Administration, which is an HHS sub-agency, ordered several puberty blockers to include a warning that the drugs may cause increased skull pressure. However, a proposed HHS rule requiring doctors to provide puberty blockers, did you notice the word? Requiring doctors to provide puberty blockers and sex change operations may face discrimination lawsuits because they might not acknowledge the potentially dangerous side effects of the procedures. Becerra ignored questions about the FDA reports in the letter to congressional Republicans, instead asserting that puberty blockers, quote, have demonstrated positive impacts on youth mental health outcomes. So, ladies and gentlemen, puberty blockers are highly toxic drugs that effectively castrate you eventually. And this is what Becerra, a member of the President of the United States' cabinet, who's the Secretary of Health and Human Services, is suggesting and then requiring that doctors provide to children. To children. Now, does he want people to wait, children to wait, like maybe until they're 18 years of age when they're, maybe figuring things out a little bit better? I mean, I personally think it should be older, but 18, at least 18? Oh, no. They've got to rush into this really fast. Oh, I'm sorry, you're 8 years old. We're going to start this puberty blocker on you right away because we don't want to wait until you're 18 because by then, you might be better. You might not think anymore that you are a woman if you are currently a guy because maybe the teachers lied to you. Quote, major medical associations in the United States, including the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychology and Psychiatry, and the Pediatric Endocrine Society and the Society for Adolescent Health and Medicine hold that gender-affirming care is medically necessary, safe, and effective care for transgender and non-binary children and adolescents, Becerra wrote in the letter. The letter was obtained exclusively by the Daily Caller and printed. Quote, puberty blockers have safely been prescribed to cisgender children for many decades. I want to clarify something for the podcast listeners. Puberty blockers have indeed been given to, as an example, girls in kindergarten who have, for whatever reason, developed an excessive amount of hair on their body. And they're, of course, Becerra's calling it cisgender children. No, they're girls, all right? Girls are girls, boys are boys. They're not cisgender. They just are their gender because that's their biological gender. Cisgender is a bullshit word. I'm sorry. I don't like the curse, but it is a complete BS word. So, to clarify, puberty blockers have been used in those very unique cases. Not because the girl thinks she's a boy, but because for whatever reason, there's some issue with her developing much sooner, and the doctors are treating it accordingly as a medical problem, not as a mental health problem. Because you see, the curriculum that's being put into place in these blue states is actually causing many mental health problems. So this new HHS rule from Javier Becerra is meant to encourage the mutilation of children, ladies and gentlemen. I have to ask you the question, and here's the question. In podcast land, podcast listeners, here's the question. What kind of party, political party, and what kind of society does that political party want to create that encourages and then requires child mutilation surgery? In Africa, certain countries, you have child mutilation surgery of young girls. And it's considered a crime against humanity by the UN. But in the United States, we're engaging in massive and expansive child mutilation before these individuals even know who they are. They don't know what they are sexually. They don't know, they're still developing. They're confused. And that's why we're talking about this subject on National Teenager Day, or as I have called it, and the Democrats have called it, it's the Democrat Child Mutilation Day. But I'm not even sure they even want to wait until these children are teenagers. I mean, they want to start as early as possible, the Democrats do, because they don't want you to actually develop and become a human being and decide as an adult what you really want to do, because you have plenty of time as an adult to do these things, by the way. These things meaning mutilate your body if that's what you really want to do. And if you really want to do it, I think you should have to pay for it. Pay for it yourself. Don't ask the taxpayers to pay for it. And so then there's an article, also in the Daily Caller. I've seen this same article in a couple of other newspapers. A Democratic representative suggests traditional families are un-American. So here you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is what is really behind the Democrats' desire to mutilate your children, because they believe that two-parent households are evil and un-American. Why do they believe this? Who are these people? I mean, are they aliens? You know? I mean, Tucker Carlson has talked about these alien like mini ships that are coming down and they're off the coast of Norfolk and other places, Chris. I mean, have they like started to populate the Democrat Party? I mean, is the Democrat Party actually, okay, I'm partially joking here, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, this is on Tucker Carlson. So is it possible that these individuals have like, it's like the invasion of the body snatchers? Now it's literally, right? They're the body snatchers and the body mutilators, except they're occupying like Adam Schiff and the other Democrats, Javier Becerra. And they're trying to turn the United States into some like, and the entire world for that matter, into some creepy bar scene from Star Wars. I don't know.
Cue the cantina music.
But Democratic South Dakota state representative, and I hate when they say Democratic, because there's nothing democratic about the Democratic Party. It's really the Democrat Party. So it's Democrat South Dakota state representative Aaron Healy suggested that idealizing the traditional two-parent married household is dangerous and un-American in a tweet just a few days ago. Healy was rebuking Family Heritage Alliance's claim that a home with a married mother and a father was the safest place for a child. Critics came to the group's defense, with some pointing to data supporting the claim that married biological parents are the safest adults for children to live with. Quote, extremist group Family Heritage Alliance said this morning that the safest place for kids are in families that have a married mom and dad, when a dangerous and un-American belief. What a dangerous and un-American belief, Healy wrote. It's unclear what specific comments Healy was referring to, as her office and Family Heritage Alliance did not respond to the Daily Caller News Foundation's request for comment. Can you imagine? You have a South Dakota Democrat who's saying that it is a dangerous belief to hold that a family that has a mother and a father is the best place for children. I mean, it's kind of obvious, and the data show it. In fact, there's a tweet out there, among many other and much data, of course, as everyone here knows, that households with a mother and a father children are much better off in those households. So here it is. Here are the stats. Children living with their married biological parents experience the lowest rates of maltreatment, according to a 2010 study by the Department of Health and Human Services, Javier Becerra's department. Children who have a single parent, but had a live-in partner. So in other words, a mom that had a live-in partner who is not the parent, saw more than 10 times the rate of abuse and nearly 8 times the rate of neglect compared to children living with their married biological parents. Further, children whose single parents had a live-in partner saw the highest rates of physical and sexual abuse compared to children in other living situations, according to the study. Actually, when it comes to abuse, the safest place for kids is an intact biological married family said Brad Wilcox, director of the University of Virginia's National Marriage Project. What a surprise, right? But we all knew this. And we all know, and we've talked about this briefly before in other podcasts, that is it really hard for anyone to believe that a child really needs a mom and a child really needs a dad? And the mom is a biological woman and the dad is a biological man. And that the child is loved and cared for in that household. But why? In what alternative universe would the Democrat Party want to engage in child mutilation and at the same time think it's okay to put children into households where you have a trans dad or trans mom? In other words, not that they turn themselves into trans after having a child, but they actually, not that that's a distinction without a difference, but they actually decided to adopt a child or have a child. This is where they're heading, ladies and gentlemen. And they're also heading to a situation, the Democrats are, where they want to say that you are an extremist for opposing child mutilation surgery. And so the Democrat Party is indeed celebrating National Teenager Day as their dream day of child mutilation day. I absolutely believe that. And I would challenge any Montgomery County, Maryland left-wing nutjob Democrat to come on this program, and they are nuts, by the way, and come on this program and debate how they think it's okay to engage in crimes against humanity, mutilating children. And that's the party of child mutilation, is the Democrat Party. And next up, ladies and gentlemen, disinformation panels in Washington state. That's right, disinformation panels in Washington state. So get this, a new bill in Washington state would classify conservative speech as domestic violence extremism. So imagine, ladies and gentlemen, if you opposed the Democrats' attempt to engage in child mutilation surgery, which is their new gender-affirming care bills that they're passing in blue states. It's really child mutilation surgery. Well, Washington state has an answer to that. If you oppose it, you are engaging in domestic violence extremism. Or imagine, as another alternative, that you opposed banning gas stoves and gas heaters and natural gas fireplaces. Well, that language is dangerous. You're engaging in domestic violence extremism. This is what the Democrat Party is now doing in blue states. So in the state of Washington, they have proposed legislation that would classify conservative free speech as domestic terrorism. It's also probably the most dangerous bill in legislative history. Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson is aggressively pushing legislation that would establish a 13-member panel to determine what constitutes disinformation and misinformation rising to the level of domestic violence extremism, according to the Center Square. The panel would also collect data on incidents of their pickings of domestic violent extremism and classify non-criminal activities or speech as such. Free speech advocates blasted the bill for targeting conservatives and criminalizing anyone who expresses an opinion that runs counter to a regime-approved narrative. Quote, "This commission is specifically designed to target conservatives and quash any government opposition, which is why the legislation purposefully ignores Antifa and Black Lives Matter extremists. Indeed, it expressly supports those tactics," wrote Seattle KTTH talk show host Jason Rantz, who called it the most dangerous bill in legislative history. According to Rantz's interpretation of comments that the Attorney General of Washington State, Ferguson, made in January on PBS, the idea behind the bill is to, quote, "take preemptive measures to stop actual domestic terrorist acts through community intervention, such as compelling people identified as extremists to undergo counseling." Okay, wait a minute. I have to stop there. Did you hear what I just said? This is from the article. The Attorney General of Washington State, his name is Ferguson, Attorney General Ferguson, said that the real purpose behind the bill is that, like, if you're thinking about talking about something that is considered speech that the Democrats disagree with, such as you don't believe that climate change is an existential threat, or such as you don't believe in child mutilation surgery from the trans activists, that the purpose of this bill, according to Ferguson, is to engage in community intervention so that you can undergo counseling. Isn't that called re-education camps? Isn't that what's happening now with the Uyghur Muslims in China? Didn't that happen under Mao? It's happening under Xi, of course. Didn't that happen under Stalin? Didn't that happen all throughout the Soviet and Marxist history? Well, you need some counseling, sir. You've got the wrong opinions. Quote, let's engage in prevention, said the Attorney General, of getting folks, avoiding them from being radicalized in the first place. If someone is radicalized and wants removal, move away from that. How can we help them with counseling, for example, to get them away from that ideology? Ferguson told PBS host Laura Barron Lopez. So we've got to get that clip at some point from PBS, because this is so insane, ladies and gentlemen. And it's in Washington State. In Washington State, a bill to classify conservative speech or speech with which the Attorney General in Washington State disagrees as domestic terrorism. We also have in the center square the Ministry of Truth. Critics warn the Washington State extremism bill targets free speech. It's House Bill 1333, by the way, sponsored by Representative Bill Ramos, Democrat of Issaquah, creates a domestic violent extremism commission to develop ways to combat misinformation and disinformation. But they don't define what that is, because that way they can change it from time to time. You're engaging in domestic violence speech, sir. Take thee to counseling. Oh, by the way, counseling is a camp. It's a sleepaway camp. It's kind. Don't worry. Just a sleepaway camp. There are some prods and probes, and we might trans you while you're there. That way, you won't really know who you are anymore. But not to worry. We might harvest some of your organs. We'll ask Xi if he needs any. The modern Democrat Party. Very, very sick. And of course, as you know, Victor David Hanson says that this movement across America by the Democrat Party, the party that is not democratic, the Democrat Party, mirrors the Chinese Cultural Revolution, where you were hit and sent to re-education camps until such time as you actually did what you were told to do. Do what you're told to do, or else. We're going to send you to that re-education camp and keep you there until you think the right way. That's already happened in history. And Victor David Hanson's point is, it's happening again. Of course it is. It's definitely happening again. And so we must watch very closely this disinformation panels in Washington State, because these bills, like the one in Washington State, 1333, House Bill 1333, they are creeping up in blue states across America, further causing citizens in the blue states and red states to be pitted against one another. Free speech versus speech police. And that's disinformation panels in Washington State. Next up, podcast listeners, the California exodus continues. No kidding. We did a California exit tax a while back. That's where California proposed an exit tax that would charge you and take a good amount of your wealth because you made it in California before you could actually leave the state. It was, of course, blatantly unconstitutional. And they put that bill in, the individual who put that bill in, I think he's the current California Attorney General, forgotten his name. But in any event, it's because so many people want to leave California. Rob Bonta put that bill in California when he was in the state legislature. And of course, now he's the AG. It's scary, huh? So in California, the exodus continues. 700,000 more people left just in the last 2 years. So we thought the census had concluded that California is only going to lose just one congressional seat. I believe it was just one. But the fact of the matter is, the next census, I believe they're going to lose at least 2 more, maybe 3. Because that many people can't wait to get the hell out of California. California continues to, and this is in the Epoch Times, continues to grapple with the harsh reality of an ongoing migration crisis with its net migration. The difference between people moving in and moving out is 700,000 fewer people. The most in the country, according to recently released U.S. Census data from April 2020 to July 2022. That's just the last 2 years. So remember, a census was just taken. And in the last 2 years, another 700,000 people have moved. So what we should do is take away another congressman from California and give it to Texas or give it to Florida. According to Chapman economics professor James Doty, who has studied migration trends in California, the net losses actually began in 2011. It's been more than 10 years, but it's gradually increasing, Doty told Epoch TV's California Insider. He said people leave California for all kinds of reasons, obviously, including high taxes, the tough business environment, and the hefty environmental regulations. Quote, job formation outside of the state is just greater, he said. People are going to areas where they can get higher paying jobs and a better life and be treated better. The Hoover Institution, a conservative think tank at Stanford, also found that in the first half of 2021, more than 70 companies headquartered in California, not located branches, but actually headquartered in California, have left, primarily to Texas, Tennessee, and Arizona, mostly due to the labor laws, you got to be a union shop, and the high property taxes and general tax environment. Not a surprise, right? But here's the thing. You would think California would get it, but they keep doubling down on stupid bills. And they keep doubling down on stupid policies. So, Chris, you'll love this. One of the policies, of course, is canceling the police. In San Francisco, I think it was yesterday, a CNN reporter was robbed while covering the crime spike in the city. So how would you like to be that guy? Okay, Mr. CNN reporter, go to San Francisco and talk about crime. CNN, they lie about everything. And the guy gets robbed while he's there. On Friday, this is just last Friday, so it's just a few days ago, a senior national correspondent with CNN, I didn't even know that they had senior correspondents, was robbed in the city of San Francisco, where they were on assignment specifically to cover the city's drastic spike in crime. I'm sorry. There's something really funny about this. So here you are in California, and you're like, I have no idea why crime is so high. CNN's like, well, let's go talk to the citizens. Meanwhile, you see like a bunch of people running out of the store, and their hands are full of stuff that they just stole because they're never caught and they're never prosecuted. And yet people keep leaving California, and the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, can't figure out why. Like, I don't know why they're all leaving. It just doesn't make any sense. It's unbelievable. And then there's a bill in California that would ban tobacco for future generations. So if you were born on or after January 1 of 2007, you would be prohibited from buying cigarettes. So I guess what they're saying is from this point forward, from January 1, 2007, if you were born on that date or after that date, you better quit smoking in California because you're going to be banned from buying cigarettes. Now, remember, this is the same state that has places where you can go to smoke pot in restaurants, order food and eat the food while you're smoking pot, and order alcohol while you're smoking pot and eating the food. And of course, but you can't smoke tobacco if you were born on or after January 1 of 2007. This is the dystopia that is California, and they don't seem to understand why 700,000 more people have left the state since 2020, meaning that they would lose yet another seat in the United States Congress. They're well on their way to losing at least another 3 seats for the next census in 2030, maybe 4 seats. And I sure hope these people that are leaving are not taking with them the crazy, nutty philosophy of California, the woke philosophy that is ruining that state and that is almost making that state unlivable. And I'm hoping they don't take that with them to other places like Texas and Arizona and Nevada and Idaho, because a lot of Californians are moving there too. I hope they don't do that and ruin those places as well. So next up, podcast listeners, we have the dumbest bill in America. And do we have a lead up, Mr. Producer? Here it is.
Dum 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 dum.
And it's the dumbest bill in America, and it is anti-vax detention camps. We have an update. Anti-vax detention camps in New York. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if you recall, but during peak COVID, New York said that they were going to create camps for people who refuse to get the COVID vaccine. So as you can imagine, people in New York were like, I chose not to get the vaccine, especially now that we've all learned that the vaccine is very harmful for many people in our society. If you're really, really, really ill and you're morbidly obese, you want to get the vaccine for COVID. But, ladies and gentlemen, more information has come out on this issue. So the New York AG has appealed a ruling that said to the Democrat governor of New York that you can't throw Americans in quarantine camps. So the New York AG is like, well, yes, we can. I'm going to appeal that ruling. So the court said, no. And she's actually appealing the ruling. So remember when you thought like that was just hyperbole during the peak pandemic? Like, it's just hyperbole. New York is just saying this to scare people. They're not really going to actually throw people in vax detention camps. Of course not. Well, actually, they were. And they still want to. Democratic New York Attorney General Letitia James is appealing a 2022 court ruling throwing out a state regulation over its glaring illegality. If successful, James's appeal will restore the powers to the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, to arbitrarily detain American citizens for indefinite periods and force them into quarantine camps if they don't get the COVID vaccine. The regulation, section 2.13, quote, isolation and quarantine procedures, was adopted and enshrined into New York Code rules and regulations in February of 2022. It went into effect April of last year. This new regulation enabled the state commissioner of health to issue and or direct the local health authority to issue isolation and or quarantine orders to all such persons as the state commissioner of health shall determine appropriate. For the purposes of isolation orders, isolation locations may include home isolation or other such residential or temporary housing location that the public health authority issuing the order determines appropriate. Read the regulation. So as you can imagine, ladies and gentlemen, New York, their attorney general and the governor want to get this power back because they actually believe it's okay to quarantine you in special camps if you don't do what they say you're going to do. Why should this matter? Well, if you can't figure it out, then you don't get the whole dumbest bill in America stuff. I'm just saying. So don't you remember about the unvaxxed New York City teachers? And they were flagged as problems by the FBI? That actually happened. Remember, New York is like, you can't teach in the classroom unless you get vaccinated. And so there was a whole subset of teachers like, I'm not getting vaccinated. I don't know enough about it. And perhaps if I get enough information, and there is enough information, maybe I will. But at the moment, no, I'm going to be more cautious. We have a clip on this. You won't believe this. And it works perfectly with what they're trying to do in New York State. We have the clip, and here it is.
A federal overreach in New York as the city reportedly flagged the fingerprints of its unvaccinated teachers to the FBI. An attorney representing those educators is talking about it in federal court. Listen to this.
When the city puts these problem codes on employees who have been terminated because of their unconstitutional policies, not only do they have this flag in their files, but their fingerprints are sent with that flag to the FBI and the New York Criminal Justice Services. So it impacts their ongoing ability to get employment at other places.
So you just heard in New York City, they not only were telling teachers to get vaxxed, but if you did not, those teachers' fingerprints and information, because they're required to be fingerprinted to be teachers, were turned over to the FBI, and they were in databases of the unvaxxed. And that would actually hurt them in getting another job eventually. But of course, you have to understand, the Attorney General, Letitia James, wants to put you into unvaxxed camps or the anti-vax camps. It's so sick, ladies and gentlemen. And the New York Democrats are all in on this. And this works perfectly with the Democrat agenda nationwide to say, you're an extremist because you dare decide to choose what kind of health care you want for your own body. You're the extremist. This is where we are in the United States of America. Anti-vax detention camps and attorney generals in blue states are like, nah, we like this idea. We want to keep this option just in case next time there is an emergency of healthcare. And that's the dumbest bill in America, anti-vax detention camps in New York. And that's it for Mark and the Millennials. Thank you for joining Mark and the Millennials. This is Mark Fisher. Thank you to our producer, Christopher Hopkins. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Getter, True Social, Rumble, and our website. See you next time.